21st Platoon. Hard drop. Secure our landing zone.
Understood.
Over the target in 5.
Hang on to your helmet.
Welcome back, Grunts, to From ODST to Helldiver. Today we are going to go over the defensive stratagems. Those will be the green ones that you will have access to. And again, we are going to split this up into two different videos. This first one is going to cover all things turrets / emplacements. And we'll get into that a little bit by exactly what I mean, but there are 13 of them to go over, I think, and that's currently what's available.
Helldivers to Hellpods. Repeat, Helldivers to Hellpods.
Let's go ahead and dive on into it now. Alright, we are at the loadout screen, about to drop into a mission. Let's go ahead and dive into stratagems here and take a look at which ones we're going to be covering. So as you can see here, we have 17 items under the defensive category. They are all green. But for this video, we are only going to cover these first 13 stratagems here. And we're going to leave the mines for another day. So, let's see exactly what we're talking about here. We have the Gatling Sentry, the Machine Gun Sentry, the Flame Sentry, the Laser Sentry, the Mortar Sentry, the EMS Mortar Sentry, the Autocannon Sentry, the Rocket Sentry, the Shield Generator Relay, the Grenadier Battlement, the Anti-Tank Emplacement, the HMG Emplacement, and finally the Tesla Tower. So let's go ahead and dive into the first 4 that I'm going to showcase in mission. Starting with the Gatling Sentry. So you can see here it has a cooldown time of 128 seconds, so roughly 2 minutes. That is with all of the ship upgrades that reduce the cooldown. So when you guys get the access to this, you're probably going to see a larger cooldown. It's not an Xbox exclusive, it's just part of the ship upgrades. So let's see what these item traits are. All of these items on the defensive stratagem is going to be having the Hellpod item trait. It gets called in and comes down in a Hellpod. Most of the ones that we're going to cover in today's video are going to be sentries, which means it is an automatic firing turret of some kind, or is something you can operate. So here we have medium armor penetrating as well, and this is a very, very, very fast firing sentry. Extremely deadly, and it also has the probably maybe second highest team killing stats. It will absolutely mow you down trying to kill things to your left and then to your right if you're not careful. There are ways to avoid this, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but just know this can be quite team killing friendly. So yeah, friendly fire isn't. The next one that we have here is the Machine Gun Sentry, which has a slower fire rate, probably about half the fire rate, but it makes up for this with a cooldown of only 77 seconds with all ship upgrades. And essentially what that means is you can call this in, and by the time it almost is expired, you can call another one in. So there is a use case for the Machine Gun Sentry over the Gatling Sentry. This one will kill things much faster, but this one will last longer. I don't know how much you can take my word for that, but you will probably see it here in a little bit with the demos, but they both essentially are machine guns. This is just much faster and runs out of ammo very quickly. The next turret we have up here is the Flame Sentry. You can see it's got the Hell Pod, Incendiary, and Sentry trait. It has a reasonable cooldown time of only 86 seconds, so you can call this every minute and a half. It is a flamethrower sentry, and it also has the trait of when it dies, it explodes with fire, which can be quite useful, especially against bugs. But what it lacks is range, which kind of makes it a unique use case. It doesn't have the greatest health bar either. It is quickly killed, but it can light basically an entire wave of enemies on fire by itself, which is very good. And it's very good at distracting your enemies. So I do like the Flame Sentry, but it is a very unique use case. I would only use it against the Terminids and maybe the Illuminate. Against the automatons, it is not going to do much because they will just shoot it. And then the next up turret here is the Laze 98 Laser Sentry. It has Hell Pod Sentry as its traits with heavy armor penetration, heat, and beam. And it has a cooldown time of 128 seconds, so a little over 2 minutes if you have all of the ship upgrades. This is a very, very deadly turret, but it has the heat sink property, and it does not reload its heat sink. So when it starts to rev up, you have a decent sustained fire time, but when it overheats, it runs out and that's it. So just keep that in mind. It's very, very efficient and very deadly. The heavy armor penetration making it comparable to these for sure, but I have seen this thing get overheated fairly quickly. So just keep in mind, if you're going to use this, it can overheat pretty quickly, but it is quite efficient before it gets to that point. And we're going to go ahead and jump in the mission now and show these turrets off, hopefully against some live targets. Alright, so we are in game now. We have a couple of bugs coming our way. I'm going to show off the Gatling Sentry real quick. As you can see, it doesn't come down immediately, but eventually. And it is going to start making quick work out of these guys. This is the faster machine gun version, and it can deal with those pretty quickly before facing me for a friendly salute, obviously. But it absolutely will gun you down, and it is quite efficient at killing things. So you do need to keep all of that in mind. It will automatically target things, and it doesn't care about shooting you in order to shoot its enemies. It's just going to do whatever it wants. Now, to offset its rampant friendly fire settings, all you have to do is hold down the B button on the Xbox controller, and as you can probably tell, me being crouched like this, crawling on the ground, it can't hurt me. Now I can crouch and maybe be somewhat immune to some of its fire, but if it starts going downhill, it'll probably get me right in the head, which will do the exact opposite of keep me alive. So just keep in mind when you're using turrets, if they do start killing you and your teammates far too often, remember you can always dive down to avoid their fire. Now obviously this is going to work a lot more effectively as you are closer to the turret than if, for instance, you were all the way out here and there is a bug right in front of me. It's much easier for that thing to accidentally hit me, especially if I'm elevated. So if I'm here and there's a bug right there and it's trying to shoot it, it does not care to shoot right through me to make it happen. So keep all that in mind, and I'm going to go ahead and try to find some more bugs here, and I will see you guys in a sec. Alright, So I am approaching a bug nest, it looks like, and I have a machine gun sentry ready to go. Let's go ahead and call it in, and I will say, this is another good point, the higher up you place a turret, the more efficient it's going to be. High ground is oftentimes key to having these turrets function the way you really want them to. As you can see, it is quite efficient. Even the slower fire rate machine gun sentry is quite efficient, though it is ignoring that guy. And you can see that it does have a limited health. Now, I do think that the Brood Commanders specifically have some kind of anti-turret cloaking situation going on where they deprioritize turrets from attacking them. Not that turrets completely ignore them, but if there are any other targets, they tend to focus on those instead of the Brood Commanders, which is why that turret wasn't shooting it. It's not a unique trait of the machine gun sentry, just happens to be something of the enemy type that I was fighting there. Okay. So next up to test is the Flame Sentry, and I think I just saw some bugs saunter off on over this way. I will go ahead and call it in.
Deploying sentry.
And here we go. Good old flamethrower, get to going. Now, I did say it had a limited range, and that is just because, as you can see, it's not actually shooting that thing until it gets about there, but it is very, very efficient at killing the bugs, as you can probably tell. It leaves a flame trail on the ground, so anything approaching it is going to be lit on fire. And you can also probably tell that as these things start approaching it, it's going to start lighting them on fire as well. Now, I will say, Flamethrower Sentry does not care about friendly fire at all. It will absolutely light you on fire to kill the enemy. So, leaving it surrounded by water is probably not the best place for it, but right around a corner is a good spot to place these things and at choke points. Yeah, very efficient at close range. Very, very vulnerable to anything that can shoot a gun at it, though. So, that's kind of where that's at. Now, I do also want to talk about a couple different traits about these turrets while we're all here watching. The big one is that enemies tend to focus fire on your turrets rather than you whenever you bring them out. So you can utilize that for several use cases. If you think that the enemy is a bit too much for you, you can retreat and toss a turret, let's say there, and then keep running. And it may not kill everything, but it will focus on everything for you and have all of the things focus on it, which is sometimes enough to get you out of a bad situation. Which is why turrets are the most fun thing for me in this game. Very good at letting you get out of sticky situations. See, a lot of things went for it, only a couple of stragglers actually followed me, and I took those out pretty easily. Now, all turrets have a lifespan of just a certain amount of time before they go away, whether they're out of ammo or not. Which it just did. That was absolute perfect timing. Let's go ahead and call this laser turret in, and I'm actually going to call it in back here so we can get a good sense of relatively how much range it's got and how efficient it is. And as you can see, it is a crazy efficient killing machine. And it didn't even run out of sustained fire. It's still got some juice. Now, if you're looking, you can probably tell the heatsink is going a little nuts. think that right there tells you how bad the heatsink is, but I could be wrong about that. It could be the coils on the top. I know that's just whether it's firing or not, so maybe it is that starts changing a color. Either way, it has quite a sustained fire rate. It can last quite a long time. I should probably duck myself. Laser turret is very, very good and very, very fun. And has heavy armor pen, which is fantastic. Alright guys, that is the first 4 turrets that we are covering. And now I'm going to go ahead and get back to the loadout screen to look at the next 4. Alright, we are back at the loading screen here. And if we scroll back down to the defensive section, we can see a couple more sentries. First up is the Rocket Sentry. Again, has the Hellpod trait with Sentry, but it also has Explosive and Anti-Tank and has a cooldown of 128 seconds. So it comes down at a reasonable amount, I suppose. Next up we have the Auto Cannon Sentry, which has the Hellpod and Sentry traits as well as Anti-Tank. And if you can believe it, it comes down with an auto cannon. Go figure. It also has a cooldown of 128 seconds, and these are taking into account my ship upgrades that have reduced the cooldown by quite a bit. Next up we have the EMS Mortar Sentry. It has Hellpod and Sentry and has the Explosive trait, which is a bit of a misnomer. It has a cooldown of 154 seconds, and what makes this unique as a Sentry is that it actually doesn't damage your enemies. Instead, it calls in an ordinance of EMS, electromagnetic gun, I suppose. Forgot what the EMS exactly stands for. But essentially this calls in a giant electrical discharge that stuns your enemies in place and slows down anyone walking through it. Now, why is this good? Couldn't you just kill them instead? Absolutely you can kill them instead, but this is one of my absolute favorite stratagems for when I'm trying to do a melee build, because an enemy that can't walk or attack is very easily killed with a melee weapon. So I like it a lot. You guys may not like it at all. That is totally fair. It has use cases. It definitely pairs well with the next one, which is the regular Mortar Sentry. It has the Hellpod and Sentry traits. It has Explosive and medium armor penetration. This is exactly what you probably thought the EMS Mortar actually did, and it actually just calls in mortar attacks. And it has an enormous range, as discovered by many YouTubers before me. It has a cooldown time of 154 seconds, and yeah, is a absolute mortar. It calls things in from an angled firing position, so it does not need line of sight in order to connect. That is true for both the EMS mortar and the regular mortar. You can place them behind walls or other objects like that. You can put them high up on top of giant rock formations where nothing can get them, and they don't need line of sight in order to hit their targets. Additionally, depending on your ship upgrades that you get, you can mark enemies for the mortars to target, which is also very convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and select these 4 items here and jump into the mission, and we'll take a look at them. Alright guys, we are back in the game, and as you can see, I've got a couple enemies that have now spotted me. I'm going to lead them out of this little area here so that I can call this Rocket Sentry in and it be actually efficient and not blow me or itself up.
Deploying sentry.
It absolutely can do that. Alright. Now, as you can see, it's going to make very quick work of all of the things that it was looking at. And I was hoping to show this off, but looks like it's a little too high. There it is. If you stand directly behind it while it's firing, it will knock you back. Fun little thing. But yeah, very efficient, very deadly, has a ton of ammo, absolutely, and will massacre hordes of enemies for you with its anti-tank penetration and tons of rockets. Very, very, very good turret. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and find some other bugs, and I'll see you guys then. Alright, I have spotted a couple of enemies here at the objective, and I'm going to go ahead and call in the auto cannon sentry real quick and see what kind of havoc we
Main
can.
objective near your position.
Some blazed up above. Come on. Come on out here. And you can see it's going to fire 3 shots at once. It is a little inefficient, and it is limited in its range. If things get too close, it will not fire on them. These are all things you need to keep in mind. You may want to try to defend your turrets, because they will die 100%.
That's called democracy!
That was a little unfortunate. Usually the autocannon can do quite better. I think the unfortunateness was that this thing was behind a rock, which delayed its initial firing. It was focused on that while other things were coming, and it focused on whatever was getting closest. We had a thing get called in right on top of it. It's usually most effective against the automatons I have found. It tears through just about anything they can get, and most of the time they don't approach an autocannon and survive. Usually they're off in the distance shooting at it, and if they can shoot it, it can shoot them, and it doesn't go very well for them at all. Both the autocannon and rocket sentry do have their flaw of having enemies that approach them too quickly will result in them basically just sitting there vulnerable and eating it. Now let's go ahead and call in the EMS mortar. I'm going to call it in over there.
Sending down sentry.
And demonstrate some of the practical uses for the EMS. Alright, EMS did not. There we go. And now you can see they are quite stunned, and I can just mosey my way on in here. Although I am moving slow, the point is my enemy is moving slow, and I don't care so much that I am walking through them and massacring them with my sword, as long as I'm able to. So, pretty good. I do really like the EMS mortar. I do think it has some good uses. But I think a lot of people prefer to just kill their enemies instead of wound them. Another thing to note is that the EMS mortar will actually damage things if that mortar actually connects. You saw it land, and it is actually a tangible object that can impact and damage things if it lands on them. But that happens so infrequently, I pretty much just say that it doesn't do any damage. So just keep that in mind. It can actually hit enemies and hurt them, but that is not the normal situation. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and try to proceed a little bit with this objective and see if some enemies can pop in, and maybe I can call in the regular mortar and show it off a little bit. Alright, the EMS mortar is still alive, and it has detected enemies over the rocks here, so I'm going to go ahead and use this as an opportunity to call the regular mortar sentry. And hopefully it will find those same targets, and you can see that paired together they are quite the deadly combo. You see they've been pretty much stunned in place. The mortar sentry is going to fire off 4 rounds back to back to back and try to hit the enemy in the surrounding area. Now, as you can imagine, if these bugs were to, for say, swarm me and be on top of me, that little guy right there will do exactly what that little guy up there would do and try to shoot them on top of me. And he would absolutely murder me. This guy kills the most amount of players in the game with friendly fire. This is the most friendly fire thing in the entire game, specifically against the Terminants. So if you're fighting the bugs and you're taking in a mortar sentry, expect to kill yourself and your teammates very frequently. So just keep that in mind. The only way to avoid that is to be near the mortar where it will not fire upon itself, and hopefully try to defend it. It is quite efficient. It's very, very good at taking on hordes of enemies. The 4 shots have a wide area of explosive, and they have medium armor penetration, so it will take down, honestly, some of even the tankiest things. I have seen it take out Bile Titans before by connecting on their soft little backs, and it can hit a couple other things in their weak spots and take them out as well. The mortar sentry is very, very good. It's very fun to use, and if you go ahead and do the iron sights with the left trigger, holding it down, and you hit the right bumper, you can ping different things, and the mortar will prioritize those enemies if it's an actual enemy. Right now I only have rocks to look at in the environment and some dead things, but if there was an enemy alive, I can ping it, and instead of just being an eyeball, like it's showing right now, it would actually be, I think, a red eyeball of some degree, and that would tell the mortar sentry that that is an enemy I'm looking at. So keep that in mind. Additionally, what the mortar sentry is very, very good at, both it and the EMS, is alerting you to when enemies are approaching. As you can see, I have a small radar going off here around me that's going to go red if there are enemies nearby, but the mortar sentry has a range of maybe double what your regular radar can output, and will absolutely wreak havoc on anything approaching you. So it's also very good at scouting things out and telling you where enemies are coming from. You can watch the angle of the projectile going out and see where it lands and know where they are. So, additional utility. Alright guys, that covers those 4 turrets, and now we're going to go ahead and get back to the loading screen and look at the next 4 items. Alright, we are back at the loadout screen here, and if we scroll down to defensive, you can see we only have 5 left. Now I want to save the shield generator relay for last, and that is simply because it is a bit unique compared to the others. All of the other turrets and whatnot that we have seen have damaged our enemies, and the shield generator relay just does something different. So first up will be the Arc 3 Tesla Tower. It has Hellpod and Sentry with a cooldown of 103 seconds. Now, I may actually have to show this one twice, which is another reason I want to show it now, and then maybe also with the shield generator relay. The Tesla Tower zaps lightning bolts out of an arc reactor at the top of it. It's a little pole sticking up out of the ground, and at the top it shoots electricity out of it. And it will 100% shoot you in the face. It will kill you, it will kill your friends, it will shoot you and zap your friends from shooting you. It'll arc off of you and kill the next person, and arc off of them and kill the next person. 100%. If you call in the Tesla towers, you need to let everyone know exactly when you do it and where you do it, so that they don't wander too close and kill you and them. So just keep that in mind. Tesla Tower, very dangerous, but it is so good and so satisfying. If there is a bug breach and bugs start spawning, you can throw this down and murder every last one of them with no exception. It is so good. It zaps them, it stuns them, and it completely blocks off entire areas of the map. Additionally, with all the ship upgrades that reduce the cooldown of the time that you can call the Tesla towers in, I think they last a total of 120 seconds on the map, so you can actually have 2 Tesla towers for at least some amount of seconds, so keep that in mind as well. This is very good at holding a position. It does, however, have a similar range, perhaps to the Flame Sentry. It might extend a little bit further than the Flame Sentry, but for the most part, I would treat them both about the same as far as range is concerned. Alright, well, that's covering it. Now next up is these 3, and all 3 of these act very similar to each other. They are sort of turrets, but they are unique from the others as they are all manned turrets. So, you call in this Grenadier Battlement. It has a cooldown of 103 seconds. It comes down in a Hellpod, and it is explosive and medium armor penetration. Essentially what this does is it calls in a half wall that is very similar in distance as the shield generator phalanx thing that has a left and right slot as well. It calls in a wide half wall, and in the middle of it there is a grenade launcher that you can mount and begin firing. And for all of you fans of Halo 2, if you can remember back at the campaign missions and maybe a couple multiplayer maps, you know, the mounted machine gun turret that you could hop on and fire from the top buildings on occasion and a couple other different places. It's very similar to that. You stand in one place and begin firing. Now, it's not just a grenade launcher. It is a grenade launcher with like 120 grenades, and they fire automatic. So, very fun. Medium armor penetration and explosive is always fun. It's a very good and unique stratagem. Alright, next up we have the Anti-Tank Emplacement. It again has the Hellpod trait, and it has anti-tank. And it has a gigantic mounted gun. It fires not nearly as fast as anything else, I think, but it is so powerful. This is the item that you want to pull in when you're fighting the Illuminate, specifically, I think. But it has practical uses against all 3 factions, but specifically against the Illuminate, it's very good at taking out the toughest enemies that they have to offer. Very good, very fun to use. Has a cooldown time of 154. You call it in and then you mount it and it obliterates targets, basically. Then next up here we have the HMG emplacement, and it is very similar to the anti-tank emplacement. It calls in as a Hellpod. It has heavy armor penetration rather than anti-tank. Has a cooldown of 154 seconds, very similar. But instead of having a explosive that it can shoot out that penetrates enemy armor. It instead is a machine gun. And I think it actually has a machine gun on both sides. So you're firing 2 machine guns at rapid fire. Very, 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 very fun. Very good as well. Especially good in defensive missions. And I think it's pretty useful against all factions. These are very, very fun items to be using. Stratagems, right? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hop in the mission, and I will show some of these off to you guys. Alright, I'm in mission, and I think I finally see a couple of enemies ahead of me. I'm going to go ahead and call in the Grenadier Battlement, just to show something off for you guys.
Sending down fortification.
As you can see, it comes in pretty quickly. And when it deploys, again, it's going to extend out a wall. Now, you can duck behind this wall. This wall is actually a sturdy wall. Very good against anything that can shoot at you, but maybe not so good against the bugs. But that's not why we called it in. It has all fire between auto and semi-auto. I guess it only has 60. I thought it was way more. You can see I can absolutely go nuts with this thing. It is a lot of fun. And now it's empty. Alright, if I back this up a bit more, I guess I'll go ahead and call in the anti-tank emplacement.
Deploying weapon emplacement.
Let's see what we can do here. So I think I'm out of bugs to fight. You can see this has just regular firing, and me with my binoculars out, and quite a zoomed in range here. Hello, lovely. Goodbye. This thing is absolutely brutal. And you can see it has 30 rounds on it. Placement. Very, very, very strong. There's really not much in the game that can handle more than maybe 3 of these shots before absolutely getting destroyed. The buildings seem to be okay, but as far as enemies are concerned, this goes through just about everything and doesn't leave left over when it's done with them. It does have the downside of a slow pivot. So, not fantastic. And you can see it will not fire where you're aiming until it actually rotates around. So just keep that all in mind. This is not a great weapon for hordes of enemies coming from multiple directions. This is more of a throw it down lane, hop in it, turn around, and fire at things as they approach and get funneled through a specific line. It's also very good against anything in the air, within reason. If it's moving a little bit too fast, like the Stingrays, perhaps it does a little less well against, but so does everything. But it still can take Stingrays out. I have absolutely done that before. That is a ship that the Illuminate have that is very fast and fires a lot of lasery type things in a straight line. Very annoying.
Objective critical stratagem available.
Alright. So, as we can see, there's definitely some bugs up ahead. I'm going to go ahead and call in the HMG emplacement now.
Deploying
here.
weapon emplacement.
Probably actually going to kill that. Yeah. The HMG emplacement is the all-around machine gun. So good. Did you find me now, bug? If I call in the flag here, objective. What are you gonna do now? Oh, there's an HMG emplacement right there on the map. You will also see these on the map. There's one. But this is a great tool to use against hordes of enemies, as you can see. It makes very quick work out of these guys. Just make sure you place it somewhere not stupid. Be able to take these guys out fairly easily. Now, last up, we have the Tesla Tower. I hope there are more enemies coming. The Ion Storm's a problem. So can't call it. I have to make another cut soon. Yeah, dead. Alright, well, the Ion Storm's foiling my plans. Basically disables all of the stratagems from
How'd you like to taste the freedom?
4 HMG for fun for me.
Mission
I
at
believe how unfortunate that Ion Storm is. I guess I'll just leave this in instead of cut away. Alright, now we get the Tesla Tower. Ion Storm is over.
deploying sentry.
Uh-huh. Come on. That thing is gonna be so deadly. Look at that. One zap and it took out everything on the right side. Now, you can see it is kind of exactly as I described. A pole with a little thing on top that shoots lightning out. You can also see that it will begin charging up as I get closer. This is about the range, and holy crap, I actually kind of timed that perfect. See, it starts charging up. It's trying to reach me right now, but I think I'm just slightly out of range. And I want to show this off twice because there is an armor passive in the game that gives you 95% resistance to this thing. And I did want to show you guys what it looks like while wearing that armor. Now, what I have currently on is the medium armor with the armor passive
You may proceed to
of
extraction
absolutely
when ready.
nothing to help against this, and I have the booster on that gives me more health in general. Now, why is this thing such a team killer? Let me show you how much damage it does.
Helldiver KIA deploying
That much
replacement.
damage.
Request approved. Deploying
That much
reinforcements.
damage to both you and the enemy. So keep that in mind as well. Now, if it is giving you some trouble, you can always try to knock it out with some grenades. Though it is quite resilient, it may take quite a few attempts. The honest best thing to kill your own Tesla tower, and don't be afraid to do so, it's not the end of the world, is if you have something like the ultimatum, you can take it out with one shot if it's well placed. You can also use things like the 500 kilogram to knock it out, and maybe a couple other explosive devices. The anti-material rifle, which I found on the map, is okay, I suppose, but I don't think this would reliably take them out. I wouldn't use this. But any kind of explosive thing you can use. You can also, if it does kill you, land on it from orbit when you get called in. You can land right on top of them and blow them up. But you have to be very precise, so keep that in mind. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut back to the loadout screen. I'm going to try to swap out my armor for the 95% 95% resistant arc armor and make sure I have the Tesla tower, and I'll see you there. Alright, we are back at the loadout screen here. And we're going to talk real quick about the last couple of things here. We have both the Tesla tower that I want to show you guys again, but this time with actual arc resistance, and also the FX12 shield generator relay. Now this thing comes in every 77 seconds, and I love that. That's with the full ship upgrades to reduce the cooldown. When you guys first unlock this, it may be a longer cooldown. But essentially, if you guys are big Halo fans, this is the bubble shield from Halo 3. If you guys can remember deploying that giant ball of invulnerability that things can walk through but nothing can shoot through. Yeah, this thing is so fun to use, and it is a much larger area than the bubble shield. And additionally, another slight difference from the bubble shield of Halo 3 is that it actually has a health bar rather than just a time limit. It also has a time limit, but it lasts quite a while. But I think it has somewhere around 4,000 health, so it has a decent amount of health. A standard Helldiver health is like 100 or something like that, so it will absorb quite a bit. However, if you're using this in the only real enemy that I would use this against is the automatons, because they're constantly firing weapons at you from a distance. This thing helps against that. Does not help at all from the bugs, and helps half the time against the Illuminate. But if the enemy is in very large numbers and is constantly attacking you, this shield generator relay is going to go down relatively quickly. So keep that in mind. You still want to kill the enemies pretty quickly. I think you can actually shoot out of it, but I'll test that in game just a little bit and make sure that it actually doesn't damage it and I can shoot enemies outside of it. But there is something else that I do want to talk about with the shield generator relay before everybody gets their hopes up and then see different results in game when they're actually using it. When you call something in with a hell pod, so this includes any of these stratagems here that we've discussed, anything that has the hell pod item trait where it lands, that is going to actually damage the shield generator relay. So if you call this in and the shield goes up and then you call a resupply pod, that resupply pod is going to damage the shield like 1,500 damage or 2,000 damage. And the shield only has like 4,500 health or something. So you're almost taking out half the shield when you call in any of the items that have the Hell Pod trait. This includes the resupply pod. So just keep that all in mind. If you're going to call things in, call them in before you call the shield generator relay, or call them in outside of the shield generator relay. Alright, that has been pro tips from me. I'm going to go ahead and get the shield generator pack. Will go well with this. And what would be fun to shoot out of this thing? Anti-material rifle, why not? Alright, I'm going to get the vitality enhancement, and then I am going to swap my armor out for the electric resistance armor, which is weird. Bigger than the heavy armor I did. Some extra padding, which admittedly is good. It is not the same as 95% resistance to arc damage. Put that right there. is the type of armor that you want. Now notice this armor passive is just based off that. I don't need to change my helmet or my cape out at all in order to receive this armor passive, though it does look a little goofy not matching armors with helmets, but that's okay. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and jump in the game now, and we're going to go ahead and test these things out real quick. It's going to be fun. I'll see you there. Alright guys, we have just dropped into the game, and I'm going to go ahead and call the Tesla Tower in right now, just to check out how much I resist it. Hopefully I don't look like an idiot and I'll actually survive it for a while. See, I'm taking multiple shots. I still get hit pretty hard, but with a simple stim pack, I'm surviving quite a bit. And I would also like to note, if you get the heavy armor version of this, you will last way more often. You almost can't die from it. And in addition, while all this is happening, every time it strikes you, it will also fork off of you and hit an enemy. And if you need to blow it up, all you have to do is land on it. Alright. Next up is the shield generator relay. See, it comes in at a decent amount of time, and it provides a massive shield. I love it. It looks like I can shoot out of it just fine. And it lasts for a decent amount of time, and the bugs cannot hit it, so I'm going to call in the resupply, and I'm also going to call in the anti-material rifle and also the shield generator pack, and that should be enough to destroy the shield. Look, it only took 2. That is pretty crazy. So I highly recommend you absolutely do not call things into shield. You'll regret it. Alright, I think that's it for the demos here with these 2 items. Just know the shield generator relay is a phenomenal item and has an absolute massive range. See it real quick over here. It's going to absorb damage like you can't believe. That's huge. That's enough for the entire team to sit in there. And that's not going to actually get through. We can tell because I'm trying to shoot at that actual thing there, and none of these are actually connected. See, it is surviving a ton of hits from the anti-material rifle.
Nothing in the chamber.
Before eventually falling. I think that took almost 4 full clips from the anti-material rifle, which by itself, that ain't no joke. The anti-material rifle is quite powerful. So. Now that shield's not going to last forever. You're going to get some mixed results depending on what you're fighting. Just keep all that in mind. But for the most part, that thing is going to be a lifesaver. If you're playing a medic role, that is one of the absolute best items you can bring into a match against the automatons or even the Illuminate. Just bear in mind, it does almost absolutely nothing against the Terminates. Alright guys, that is all I've got for you on this one. Hopefully this was pretty informative and you guys know a bit more about turrets and little emplacements. And I will see you guys soon to cover mines, which will be a very special video. It'll be the mine video. Very, very good. And I'll see you guys there. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of From ODST to Helldiver. If you found any of the information in this video useful, please go ahead and leave a like. And if you have any questions about anything, you want some clarification, or maybe you want to sync up in-game, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and maybe I can add you. We can get a couple of games together. And if you want to see a couple of more videos like this, why don't you go ahead and subscribe? That would really, really be appreciated. And hopefully this video gets you guys a little bit more prepared for when this inevitably drops on the Xbox. I hope everybody watching sees so many similarities between the Helldivers and the ODSTs. They're pretty much doing all of the same things. And I do find this game is, without a doubt, one of the greatest Halo games in the last 10 years. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.